It's time to celebrate another podcast launch party that I hosted. Today's Limitless, a Space-Time Alchemy podcast with Tracy Poisner. Tracy, the podcast is out, and you got to feel excited with the amount of work, but also to really tell your story that's your true passion, which is space-time alchemy. How are you, Tracy?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you for doing this and thank you for all your help with it. It's been a long journey so far. Like I don't know, I've done podcasts before. This is my third podcast and this is like another level of of work and preparation and moving parts and all of that. So um yeah, it's been a long time, like 4 or 5 months I've been putting the pieces together to get to here where we could actually move forward and put them out. So yeah, it's fun. It's
Absolutely.
fun
It
to be
is
here.
it's fun, and kind of tell us how you got the idea to do another podcast and more about space-time alchemy. Then we're going to talk about the journey of the podcast and all that and some of the guests you've interviewed.
Yeah, well, one of my guests is sitting here right now, Lauren Zavlunov. Thank you for coming. This Lauren actually has recorded 2 episodes. I'm letting the cat out of the bag here, but hers is one of the first 3 that have dropped today. So I decided that I wanted to start with some some grounded substance. I don't know, because like a lot of what I'm talking about, what my guests are talking about is kind of way out there for a lot of people. Um, and so like I didn't want people to have to like wait for another week to to hear what's coming next. So there are 3 episodes that are live already now and a trailer that maybe ties things together a little bit. I mean, I tried to give a sense in the trailer of where I was going with all of this, but um, the idea of another podcast, I love podcasting. I love it. I've done 2 podcasts already. I guess I have oh, there's Caroline. Hi. Hi. I've done 2 podcasts. I did one called Essential Stepmom and another one called Undeletable Dad. Um, for other parts of my business in previous years. And I loved doing it. I love doing solo episodes. I love interviewing guests. Maybe I just like talking. I don't know, but it seems like a really good way to, I don't know, to put information out there to get people thinking. I think I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to podcasts. I'm not somebody who has to commute. If I was a commuter, I would be like listening twice a day, every day to something. But when you work from home, it's hard to like make time. Often if I go for a walk or something, that's when I'll put a podcast on. But I love the format. It feels kind of intimate. Like you feels like you're getting to know the person who's talking somehow. It's casual, it's not like a lecture so much. Yeah, it's a little different than doing, let's say, live stream, because I've done a lot of live streams too in both of those, the stepmom group and the divorced dad group that I have. I've done a lot of live streams as well, but those are more, let's say, trainings. And when you get to do a podcast, you get to just sort of talk about something and especially having conversations. And so I get to invite people that I really like who I talk to for fun just anyway in real life, like Lauren, like Caroline, like some other people who may pop on here. I hope that some other guests will come. Some of them, people who are in Europe or farther afield. My friends in Australia, it's 5 o'clock in the morning there right now, so it's hard in this sense when you have a global community of people that to get everybody all together at one moment. But this is fun.
I totally agree. And before we get to some of the guests that people are going to get to review as we batched and launched the first 3 podcasts, Tracy, I wanted to kind of get the whole understanding of space-time alchemy if people do not understand it, and especially Bach flower alchemy and your technology, and then how these conversations intertwine your how you work with clients when you interview these amazing guests.
Okay, that's a lot for one question. But I I had an inspiration at one moment, and actually I'll have to have Geeta on a show one time. Geeta Lawson is a mentor that I've worked with, who was specifically, we were working with archetypes, and that's how all of this started for me. I fell down a deep rabbit hole of the archetypes of consciousness, New Earth consciousness, as they would say. Um, and uh, Geeta asked me at one point, as part of a group coaching that I was doing with her, if you weren't doing what you were doing now, what you're doing now, what would you be doing? And at the time, I was working on the divorced dad project, Undeletable Dad, and I loved it. And I had lots of clients. It was successful. I loved what I was doing. But when she asked me that question, I knew immediately that I would want to put those archetypes together with these Bach flower essences, which I have had in my office for the last 30 years at my homeopathy office. That's what I've been doing before I, got involved with online coaching, etc. This idea of putting the archetypes together with the flower essences, that just like came to me in a, you talk about like a bolt of lightning or whatever, like that just fell in so hard. And I just knew it was a thing, but it wasn't something that I'd been contemplating. It just appeared in an instant as an answer to that question, which I hadn't really thought about it because I was actually very happy doing what I was doing. But as I started to play with this and to put them together and to see how they fit so like hand in glove, it's just they are two systems tailor made for each other. And each one sort of amplifying the effectiveness of the other in a way that just blew me away. So um, essentially, it's a kind of coaching method combined with a sort of a healing arts flavor in terms of adding the essences in, so that it just is able to accelerate the effect of whatever kind of coaching or therapeutic system you're using. Adding the flowers to it, as seen through this archetypal lens anyway, really puts everything together very quickly and brings very quick results. So there, we're able to add this element of, I would say these are quantum medicinals. It's energy medicine working at the quantum level inside of your body. And archetypes are, energetic patterns that we're running in our thoughts and belief systems, etc. So it's just something that uh, that helps clients, or myself. I mean, I started off using it on myself, and the results were quite evident to me and people around me. So I started doing it with clients and other people who were interested, and it's just been a fantastic journey.
I absolutely love it. So we are having more people showing up. It's an amazing journey. I guess what we can do is share some of your friends that are here now, and
Yeah.
let's introduce some of them, and then we can go to their thoughts and about the podcast and everything, and how they're celebrating this podcast launch.
Well, thank you guys for coming. Lauren is here and Caroline. So Lauren Zavlunov is, I think, I think you're on episode 3, but it's live already, so it's available there. And I remember coming back to you after we had recorded, sort of laughing, but not laughing, and saying, we're gonna have to do this again because like I only hear my voice on this recording. I don't think you got a word in edgewise. We talk a lot together. I mean, we sometimes just book calls and we bounce ideas off each other and we just get talking. And so I kind of forgot that I was recording a podcast. So anyway, there will be another podcast with Lauren, but nevertheless, I did make sure that Lauren got to say some significant things there.
Yeah, I love that. But I think our conversations are always so powerful. And also having my own podcast too, there's almost like this, I want to hear because like Tracy, you have so much yeah, beautiful, so many beautiful things to say around the topic. And I think once we have that fire in our belly around it, which you clearly do, that's just natural. So then we got a second podcast, and I think that's
Yeah,
amazing. So thank you for asking
yeah,
me again.
yeah.
It
So
was
there will be a plan B, and I love the room that you're sitting in today. That's
Thank you. It's my
extremely
virtual room.
beautiful.
I don't even know. I don't remember. I think I was recording something, so this is not actually my room. But
I've seen some of your other virtual
what's
spaces,
behind
and
me actually is a giant my daughter's wings for a cosplay slash Halloween costume. So I have giant wings behind me, which is also kind of strange and interesting, but yeah,
oh, you mean in
enjoying
real
the
life? In
in
real
real
life,
life.
that's
Yeah.
what. Oh, neat, neat, neat.
I don't know what's more wild, the virtual one or anyway, but yes,
Well,
our conversation was really, really powerful. And I really love the fact that just to speak about the podcast itself, the focus when we were talking about like the superhuman aspect and not necessarily focusing right now on healing or survival, really that this technology being something for amplification, expansion on such a high level. I think this really is what, yeah, what this podcast really brings to the table. So just, yeah, very honored to be part of the launch party and part of the first very three podcasts that have been launched. So
mhm.
yeah, thanks again.
And I can thank you for introducing me to Caroline Letrange, who is um, a luxury travel agent dealing in villa retreat spaces around the world. And we have had some amazing conversations about uh, putting together a retreat package that would feature this work that I'm doing, along with other practitioners who I'm kind of pulling from various places, people that I know, and reaching out to find the right people to do these things. But like, I am so excited about this project, and Caroline is so enthusiastic about everything, really. Like, you've been really motivating me hugely on this journey with you could go here, you could go there, this is an incredible place, I have a great idea for you, so you've been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you to you because thanks, Lauren, for the introduction and thank you for the invitation today. I think the journey is just the beginning. I'm enjoying it to the full. And I've been on the podcast with Lauren, and with you, I've discovered the bar flower, which I didn't really know actually. And it's been a very transformational journey. We had a couple of sessions together and talking about the villas, etc. But when I was introduced to the flower, I felt in love with it straight away. And I thought that's a very interesting way of unlocking what you have inside and the blockages you may have. So I stopped the resistance and say, yes, I'm going to try that. So yeah, you introduced me to this and I get my little bottles of bar flower. And I think the transformation, as you said, is very much something which is very deep into yourself, and it helps you unlock the other teachings or even podcasts that I have with Lauren. I feel that I hear Lauren what you're saying in a different way, and something that I can take for myself than more than being on a podcast. So yes, that's been transformational. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm really glad that yeah, I'm glad that we just fell in together and you got to experience that, because as I was saying to you and maybe to some other people, I love to have the experience of working with people who are my ideal client from the point of view of having already done a lot of personal work, a lot of spiritual growth, a lot of reading, a lot of meditation, or experiencing whatever it might be, but like you're not new to the concept of spiritual growth. So you were able to share with me what this did for you at that level, you know, as someone who has already put in many years of work on expanding yourself. So it was
Thank you.
exciting for me to hear you speak about, you know, pulling some different pieces together that had been sort of floating out there and maybe just spinning, and being able to say, now it's something, you know, now I can use all of those things that I've done.
Well, thank you. I think you've done a lot, even if you don't realize it. I think it does a lot to people. So thank you, and I hope that this teaching that you're doing, we can put this into a villa, and then get all these people together, and
Yeah.
through different teachings, make a big program that helps people unlocking what it's been unlocking to me. So yeah, I think that's an interesting journey. We're on the start of it, so
Yeah.
there's lots of room for improvement.
Yeah, well, it really is a kind of you're bringing in a piece into my world of that's kind of this ideal, almost magical environment for this kind of transformative experience to happen. You know, it's not, I mean, of course, you can do it anywhere, right? But it's not so easy to just come home from your busy work day and with all the stress, whatever, and then somehow hop on a Zoom call and do it. Like, you know, it's nice to be able to step outside of your everyday reality when we're talking about becoming a new version of you. It's nice to be able to do that in a place where you're not tied to so many elements of the you who you are right now. You know, it's involves letting go of a lot of that, letting go of a lot of specific elements of who you are, and to not be surrounded with all the trappings of that, I think would be really really supportive of making that maximum kind of transformation. So I don't know that I would have thought of it except for having your input. You know, I had a vague idea because I had already spoken with Riina Laine, who may show up here. It's very late where she is in Finland. It's, I don't know, 10:30 at night or something. So she said she would try to pop on if she wasn't already asleep. But I know that she and I had already spoken about somehow collaborating together, because what Riina does is this beautiful sort of fine art level body painting. She's just an incredible artist and world champion body painter. But we got connected together anyway through some mutual connections, but basically around the idea that she was also doing something that was so transformative, that people have a very profound spiritual experience having this done to them, being turned into a work of art sort of in front of their eyes over a number of hours. And, you know, the contact with the skin and being in your body and all the, you know, many elements of what she does. And the fact that her paintings are very, very much about flowers. You know, it's almost all kind of floral patterns is the nature of the art that she does. So we could see this really beautiful synergy between the kind of work that we do. And we were just daydreaming about how could we bring this together and make some kind of a, you know, it would be great. I mean, she lives in Finland. I'm in Canada. We have to meet somewhere, you know, it could be somewhere interesting for the client in terms of an activating place to go. And then meeting you sort of pulled that all together, because you have no end of these kind of places in every corner of the world to choose from. So, you know, there's no way that we'd be able to access those locations without your expertise and know-how. So that's really, you know, another piece of the puzzle fell in when I was introduced to you. So it's very exciting.
Fantastic.
Well, Tracy,
I-
you have some more people to introduce, but it's pretty cool to hear these stories and these connections and how it all fits into Bach Flower Alchemy.
Oh, great. Well, I see Paul is here. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Tracy. How are you doing today?
Good. Paul and I just recorded his interview that will that's going to air maybe sometime end of October, if I'm not mistaken. But it was a pleasure to meet Paul, and of all the things that people are sharing with me in terms of transformations that they've made personally, or um, different versions of exceeding our own potential, or our own, imaginary boundaries. I think that, Paul's journey is unique in terms of having transcended a kind of what you would think of as something really fundamental about who you are, and become someone so different. It's very cool.
Well, thank you. I appreciate those kind words. It's been an interesting journey, this personality transplant over the course of the last 50 years or so.
I share what you said with me the other day. You said, like, I've been working on myself.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like to say that I've been trying to get my shit together for well over 50 years, and it's really starting to pay off. It's taken a while. My journey is, I equate it to filling up a swimming pool with an eyedropper.
Yeah.
Every little meditation, every little prayer, every little act of kindness, every little, a bit of self-awareness, and seeing what's screwing you up, and investigating your subconscious mind and the leftovers from a childhood. Every time that we do that we build up the skill of doing it again. Like I say, awakening is a skill. I like the name of my second inspirational book was The Practice of Awakening, and understanding that it is a skill and a habit, and we can build it up, much like we can learn to play tennis or learn to sing. And then over a while, in my particular case, over decades, it has become, I think, the most valuable skill of my lifetime, is that ability to wake up, remember who I am when I'm at my best, and shift my energy in that direction. And the good news is that it's a skill that we can teach everybody. We can teach our kids, we can teach, business associates, we can teach them the skill, the art of self-awareness, self-management, and, stepping into their own greatness.
That's the piece, eh? Stepping into their own greatness, because I shared a little a short video that it's an excerpt from my interview with Sylvia Swan in episode 1, and she refers to, people are leaving so much money on the table in their business by not understanding energetics, and the precision required of how we express ourselves, and messaging and language. But we're leaving greatness on the table.
Yeah.
As a species, like, everyone has some kind of 1000x version of who they are right now, that is just waiting to be liberated. And my goal is not so much, I know I've talked about this before, but, like, people have to have done some healing work, or some, as I was just saying about Caroline, like, that I love being able to work with her, because she's somebody who's already done a lot of inner work and spiritual growth and expansion, reading, listening to podcasts, learning things, meditating. Caroline lived for a decade in Nepal. She's very well versed in, a kind of a spiritual view of the world that is very different there than the one that we have here. So for me, it's great to work with people who have done some, they've filled up their swimming pool, and now we get to talk about like oceans of
Mm.
of water, because it really is limitless. Like what we can do is without limit. And it's kind of funny for me to be saying that right now, because in this last week or two, I've been really grappling with my personal limits of what I can do, like what I can get done, like the amount of like pedaling that I can do in terms of work that I have to do. And I've come to a kind of realization about that, which is that, there are no limits to what I can accomplish. But there are human limits to like how much I can accomplish, like in terms of actual tasks and projects and jobs. And it's, for me, my job is to not conflate those two things and think that I can just keep running harder and harder and do it all, and on one level I can, of course, because that's another thing, right? When we get into another frame of reference, another realm of consciousness, I can totally do whatever I want. But as a 3D person, and I used to hate this, like I always wondered what all that 3D talk was about, but it's really true. Like you are a physical being in this world. I have to eat and sleep and rest and all the things that people have to do. So I have to sometimes bring myself back and respect some physical reality of what I can do in linear time, which is also a thing in this realm. As much as I play very often in the world where I know that it's not a thing.
Awesome.
You
Yeah,
keep
that's
Sorry, that
getting
was kind
more.
of a long ramble.
Yeah, no, but there's awesome sharing, and more people are coming. So
Oh,
that's
cool.
too.
Okay. Wait, I need to see who else is here.
Yeah, let's introduce Sikta.
Yes,
It's,
please. Sikta, I don't know you.
yeah,
Hi,
we've
Tracy.
been connecting together, and it was an amazing journey. So I thought I would invite her into the community
So
and
great.
podcast today. So yes, if you want to introduce yourself, feel
Please.
free. I'm sorry, I'm
Thank-
throwing you under the bus.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Thank you, Caroline, for that lovely introduction. So basically, Caroline and me were trying to have a business conversation. That's why we got on the call, but we connected at a very deeper level. You just narrated about her journey to Nepal. I'm from India, and I do have a spiritual aspect to me, which is very strong. And that resonated so well that we have kept in touch after that. My journey has been from a technologist. I'm a 15 plus year technology person. I've been a sales director. I've been a head of sales also, just forgot, for across the globe for a startup. But at some point, I realized that I need to pay attention to what I'm bringing to the table and what I really want to bring. Turns out that I am someone who would want to be that inspiration for people to reframe their story and to look at it from a lens that makes them see themselves as more powerful. So that led to my journey as a coach. And today I have more. So I was doing it implicitly. Like when I look back at my 15-year career, my greatest highs have been the time when I've been asked to nurture a team, when I've been put in mentorship positions. So it was something that was there within me, but I never explicitly paid attention to it. But this was a time when I realized that I need to pay attention to what I really bring to the table and why people link to me. I've always believed I'm not a great salesperson. I'm a good observer. I'm a good human being. But the feedback that I get is that you appear to be very authentic. And so what you bring to the table, we believe in you. So that's my sales point, honestly. So whatever I believe shows.
And I believe in the power of human beings. And that's what has led me down this journey, where today I'm a business coach and a life coach with 500 plus hours of coaching. But compared to all of you, I feel I'm just starting. Paul has 50 years of experience getting enlightened. Caroline has been 10 years in Nepal. I mean, I've been in India, but I haven't really taken the journey consciously. So I think I'm a newbie in front of all of you. But that's my story, Tracy. And
Oh, that's
today,
great.
Caroline invited me. So
So nice to
thank
meet
you.
you. So nice to meet you. And we'll absolutely have to have some conversations because I would love to hear more about what you do. And yeah, this is a great thing about podcasting and having a community. You just get to meet more and more and more interesting people all over the world. I see that Rena is here, and I don't know if Rena, if you want to put your camera or not, but I saw that your name was here, so I want to say hi if you're able to come
Hi.
on camera. Hi.
Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry, I'm
I
on
can.
camera. I'm ready to get to bed, but I really wanted to support you. I told you I'd be here, so wanted to support
it's
you, but
so
I'm
nice
not
of you to
camera
come.
ready in no way.
It is
Sorry.
very late. It's very late where you
very
are. I
late.
appreciate you being here. But I spoke about you a little earlier and talked about how we had this, ongoing beautiful daydream about making about working together in some way and collaborating in a beautiful location somewhere, some kind of retreat location, and then meeting Caroline actually made it possible to have any one of a number of fantastic locations that we could access almost at the drop of a hat. So it's that just solidified the idea that like this is totally going to happen, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that looks in real life, to be able to do our work.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
In partnership. That's going to be very, very fun. Very fun. Well, thank you so much for coming. This is really
just
nice to see you here.
Yeah, it's just so great that you have this launch of the podcast now, and we get to listen to all the episodes, and so I'm really happy for you. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I just have to say a few words. I don't know if Sonal is going to show up. She was something just came up for her at the last moment. She's actually on holiday this week from her job in Abu Dhabi, where she lives, Sonal Singhal, who also really started this whole ball rolling. And I certainly would not be here today doing this without her input. But she found me probably 2 years ago now online. She had she has a podcast about Bach flowers. I think it's called Flower Power. I'm not sure that she's recorded any episodes recently. Maybe she has, but yeah, she works as an engineer. If I didn't just say that, she's a PhD in engineering. So very interesting that that she should be so kind of interested in Bach flowers. But she reached out to me online. I had been commenting in some groups. I guess we were in groups together, and I think I had just started my Facebook group. So she reached out and invited me onto her podcast, and we hit it off exactly in the way that you're, Sikta, you were talking about hitting it off with Caroline. And so having some more conversations, I asked her if she wanted to help me with this project of kind of associating the archetypes of consciousness with the Bach flowers. So she was really the expert about the flowers at that point, because I have to say that although I had been using them more or less for 30 years, I didn't really know them deeply the way that she did. And then I was much more the knowledgeable person about the archetypes, because that was brand new for her. So I had been learning about the archetypes from Sonika Asif and her husband Naveed in their business, which at the time was called Wild Dynasty, and now it's lushempires.com. So anybody can go and find them at lushempires.com and really learn from the master what the archetypes are all about. But I had been learning from them, and so then Sonal went and did her own sort of learning experience there, and then we were able to have a shared vocabulary, let's say, in terms of talking about how the archetypes fit together with the flowers. But we've been meeting online once a week for the last couple of years. And I find it very, very inspiring to talk with her and do this work with her. She's also a very spiritual person, and it is very activating for me to be in her presence. She's introduced me to other perspectives of things that we can bring into our work. So just for instance, we've just completed going through all the flowers and attaching what we call releasing statements. So they're not quite like affirmations. They're going to work a little bit differently than that. But we had already done a whole bunch of work on affirmations, and these releasing statements are very powerful. But each new phase and each new thing that I learn or that I bring in, it just sort of adds a new facet, a new way of reflecting what these flowers are about and what they can do. And it's so exciting for me to be somehow streaming all of this information into the world, because anybody can use these. They're available everywhere. They cost practically nothing. They last forever. They'll never go stale dated. I mean, you can't sell anything without an expiry date, but they don't ever lose their potency or become bad. They have no side effects. You can't make a mistake with them. And the more you ask of them, the more they are giving, as I'm discovering, because I'm asking impossible things of these essences now, and they just keep stepping up to the plate and doing what I expect from them. It's quite magical. And so I think from any level, from the healing perspective, it's a complete system of home healthcare that anybody can have and learn to use at home quite easily, with information that's readily available in books and online. And having been a homeopath for 30 years, I can tell you that it's nothing as complicated as homeopathy for as far as systems go. It's very, very simple and straightforward, but it's also very deep and profound, and leads to a very significant feeling, like an important kind of shift that we need to make. So not just about whatever, healing wounds or heartbreak, but really going deeply and making transformation. So I think it's exciting. I'm excited to be part of I want to say a kind of renaissance of, and maybe that's not true, because they have been used continually for the last 90 years since they were created. But I think there's a growing interest in them now. I've met other people who are teaching about Bach flowers, and I haven't noticed in my 30 years of being associated with them so much interest in them as there is now. So I think it's kind of a question of him being, again, kind of ahead of his time, in a sense that they did become very popular during his lifetime. Bach, he died in 1936, but even before he passed away, it had become quite a popular thing already in many parts of the world, not just in England where he was. But I think in terms of kind of like supernova impact in the world. I think that's coming now. So I feel really excited to be a part of that.
Well, thank you. If I may step up in what you're saying is more that because I've been trying them and it was my first experience with them. And I think I told you that I felt like peeling an onion.
Yeah.
And this is really what it felt. Paul talked about the awakening, and I think that's very much that. And I think everyone can bring here in this room a little bit of everything. But the peeling of the onion was really, really something that I didn't expect. I thought it would, you talk about the healing, but I didn't feel it as a healing. I feel it as an awakening, a renaissance, as you said. And I think that was very powerful and totally unexpected. And at the same time, I didn't have any control of it. It just happened. So it's something that I didn't force. I just took it and said, okay, I'm going to try something new. No expectations. And then the comeback of it was so profound in terms of yes, getting rid of the non-essential things. And most of the time there's fear and mostly fear of lots of things. And then it calmed down everything. Feel that your soul suddenly says, oh, quiet down. There's no need to fear that much. And you still have an aspect of fear because it's a survival mode. But I think the bar flower helped me to quiet down the noise and get more aware of my surrounding, about myself, and refocus on things that were totally blinded because of this fear. So yeah, I think that was a good journey.
What I'm hearing in this is so many people with similar interests. You've come together, Tracy, to celebrate this podcast. And so one thing before I go back to Tracy, after I think everyone has gotten the opportunity to share, that which I think is phenomenal, is the fact that everyone should go. Definitely part of giving her flowers, giving Tracy flowers today, is to go to the podcast. And Tracy, you can put in the link, the one that you want them to go to, and then they can go ahead and listen to a few of them. Then go back like a couple days later, once I think they're all launched on Apple, and write an Apple podcast review. That will really get her message out to more people. Reviews are where podcasts get their first push versus social media. It's almost like Amazon in so many ways. The more podcast reviews and those people that wrote reviews listened to the entire podcast, it really will help Tracy. And I'm sure Tracy can do the same for anyone else that has a podcast. Now, Tracy, I wanted a question to ask you. What do you think you learned more about this podcast than your other two podcasts you've done?
What did I learn more
about launching this podcast compared to the other two podcasts?
Oh my gosh. Well, hang on. I don't think I ever launched the other podcast. I just started. There wasn't a launch. I just started. So yeah, this was a different thing, and it's a completely different I don't know, production values, I suppose is the word. I mean, I have, like, you're producing the podcast, and so like you helped me at the recording end with your Zoom link, and I had music commissioned. That's a fancy word for it. It's Danny Columbi is actually a cousin of mine, and I hadn't seen him in a really long time, but my brother Rob Poisner does audio editing and recording, and he's written a lot of really nice music in his day. And I asked him if he could do something for me for the podcast, and he didn't happen to have any of his, extensive equipment hooked up. But he said, you should ask Danny. This is what he does, for a living. He does music for TV shows and podcasts, whatever. And I felt like, oh, me? Like, I'm too small, I'm not a big show or whatever. But he wrote the really beautiful. I mean, I told him what the show was going to be about, and then he just picked something that was like, I mean, he didn't pick it. He wrote something absolutely magical. I think I love the music that he created for this. So that was wonderful for me, and wonderful also that, you know, it happens to be someone in my family who could do that for me. And just a quick shout out to my parents for having incorporated a business called Spacetime in 1969, which was my dad's architecture firm and my mother's interior design business. And they worked, you know, Spacetime was the family business that I grew up with. It was a word that I would have heard every day in my house growing up all those years. And they finally retired. My dad has passed away about a year and a half ago, but they retired, I don't know, about 10 years ago. And recently my mom said, I have to do something with this, you know, corporation or whatever, this business entity. I have to, you know, either shut it down or transfer it. Like, do you want it before I get rid of it? And I said, do I want Spacetime Enterprises? Yes, I do. Like, what a perfect name for what I'm doing. So I decided to just make that the name of what I do, instead of just calling it Bach Flower Alchemy, which is, you know, that was kind of how I referred to it for a long time. And that's what my Facebook group is called. And BachFlowerAlchemy.com is the website where people can join. I should say this out loud. BachFlowerAlchemy.com is where you can join my private membership portal, which is called Spacetime Alchemy. But that's a free group to join. And then inside of there, I have several different paid containers for different programs that I have. There's a 12-month Master Alchemist program to learn this whole system for people who are just personal interest or who want to use it in their business. There's a VIP version of that includes a lot of one-to-one contact and certification at the end. I've just decided to launch a turbo version of that in 3 months for people who really want to, you know, put the pedal to the metal and work very hard to get through everything in a shorter period of time. So yeah, BachFlowerAlchemy.com is where you can join that free community. And I have a lot of, you know, videos and other things there for people to watch. So, yeah, I didn't want to stick just with Bach Flower Alchemy because it's more than that, you know, and I've very purposefully included muscle testing as a really integral part of this method in terms of making a final selection of remedies. If we're talking about treating yourself or another person, I think that muscle testing, which is a kind of ordinary name for something called applied kinesiology, about using the muscles of the body to really tap into a very, very deep somatic wisdom that we all have. It's a connection that everyone can hook up to in terms of connecting with the energy of truth that's all around us outside of our hypnotic state that we're all in. So yeah, that's how it got to be called Spacetime Alchemy. So a nod to my folks, Helen and Marty. Thanks for that.
I think it's so cool. And what a time for when space is going to be big in the next 20 years for your business, right? Think about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're going to be planetary species soon. We're not going to be just in, you know, in the world. We'll be all outer space. So
Who knows,
timing,
right?
with
Who
your
knows?
with your technology, for sure. That was interesting. You talked about all that different work, you know, the producer, the whole thing. I know that interviewing people is much different, more different when you're doing this podcast than other podcasts. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a different, oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, the other podcasts were really about sharing practical tools for my audiences. So I was finding people who had different types of, specific expertise that was filling up the holes in our knowledge for those audiences. And this is much more for me. And it's much more playful, and also different format. So my previous podcasts, I would have an interview, and then I would record a little intro piece and a little outro piece. So I would record an introduction of the guest, and then I would record some reflections on what the person had talked about. And this time I've decided to insert something into the middle of every episode. So each of the episodes has kind of intermission where I just riff on what we've been talking about, and I apply this space-time alchemy lens to whatever we've been talking about to kind of bring this methodology into the conversation a little bit. So that's going to be a slow journey of kind of unraveling. It's a completely different way of teaching, let's just say, instead of starting from the beginning and explaining everything, it will be a very, very different kind of metamorphosis into understanding something about this system by hearing me talk about it, and then being just elaborated by not specifically, but the conversation and my piece are not happening in the same space-time moment, right? So it's different from every point of view, but especially the way that I've been putting these together. It's just a great experience.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any other people like to share anything more about Tracy's idea of this podcast and launching it? Anything else? Because we are going to be closing exactly in 5 minutes. Tracy, when everyone wasn't here, I was like, okay. And then they all showed up, and you proved it, and you said it was going to happen. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. But I'm going to let anyone on the floor to share anything more they want to share about Tracy and her celebration of her podcast launch. All right.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Caroline, are you going? Otherwise, I'll take a moment.
Okay, let's go with you first. Go ahead.
Okay. I think it's a lovely idea to have a podcast in today's world to promote what you bring to the world. It might have its own initial growth cycle, but it is one of the surest ways of having an explosive growth. And you did talk about how the Bach flower therapy is having its own explosive growth. I think all the best to you, more power to you, so that it flourishes in the best way possible.
Thank you so much. And thank you for coming today. This is lovely, really. It was so nice to meet you. We'll connect for sure.
Definitely.
I think Lauren had something was going to pop on.
I was, but you read my mind. I'm just, I didn't raise my hand, but I just want to say yes. Yeah, all the love, all the just what you're bringing to the table. People need your work. The visionaries out there, the innovators out there, those who are looking for that next level of expansion. And yeah, I'm just celebrating you and enjoying watching this beautiful process. And just, it's been wonderful to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being a part of it. I mean, it's just everyone who I've asked to come onto this podcast has been so enthusiastic about it. So I'm thrilled. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It was like a whole party. This is so nice. I really didn't know if
absolutely
anyone would be here. So this is just really, really lovely.
And everybody who was tuning in on the different platforms, and then they go back. And that's the big thing about why go live if no one comes. Here's my question. This is a tip for everyone in this audience that, social media wants you to utilize the live feature, even though certain platforms only perform really well on live, and that's X and TikTok. LinkedIn Live does not do very well unless you invite everybody. Same with Facebook, but they do push it out to a larger audience after it happens. So your video is more likely to be seen than if you would just upload it, a longer video. So you get a much bigger audience that can see your stuff. So that's why I continue to live stream. Also, because of the video quality is 100 times better than it just going in Zoom using Restream. And lastly, there's nothing like live, you know, because you really got to go. You have to be on your best behaviors compared to if you're recording. Okay, let's stop 3 times. And we are too busy people to do that. And I love the fact that it becomes a podcast right when it's over. So if anyone wants to go check it out, go to Tracy's LinkedIn right now, and you can replay the podcast launch party. So that's the cool thing about it. And anybody else like to share before we say goodbye?
I think you're doing a great thing, and I think your work can be linked to any one of us here. So yeah, and having testing it, I really appreciate your work. That's great. And as they say, within 10, 15, 20 years, it will still be here and grow. So you have lots of room for improvement and blossoming. So that's great.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So everyone else can check out, TracyPoisner.com for our live stream and follow-up listening audience. Make sure you go there. And then there is another place to connect with Tracy. Appreciate it, Tracy. Again, thank you again for the opportunity to be your producer and to learn from your technology and the conversations we have and understanding about mindset and how you have to have the best performance possible in what you do and to be limitless. And there you go. That's the name of the podcast. Everyone check it out. Space Time Alchemy. Thank you again, guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you, Neil.
All right. You're welcome. That was the podcast launch party for Limitless Podcast, Space Time.